So welcome back, downloads. Today we're going to be going over right action. The passage that I've chosen for this is one that I've gone over at least a couple of times with you before. Bear with me. I'm going to try and make this not any longer than I absolutely have to. But it's probably going to go a little long. So, what we're talking about comes from the Majjhima Nikaya, and this is the Buddha talking to Rahula, right? Talking about mirrors and action. So I'm going to try and speed through this. What do you think, Rahula? What is the purpose of a mirror? For the purpose of reflection, Bhante. So too, Rahula, an action with the body should be done after repeated reflection. An action by speech should be done after repeated reflection. An action by mind should be done after repeated reflection. Rahula, when you wish to do an action with the body, before you do it, you should reflect upon that same bodily action thus. Would this action that I wish to do with the body lead to my own affliction, the affliction of others, or the affliction of both? Is it an unwholesome bodily action with painful consequences, with painful results? When you reflect, if you know, this action that I wish to do with the body would lead to my own affliction, the affliction of others, or the affliction of both. It is an unwholesome bodily action with painful consequences, with painful results. Then you definitely should not do such an action with the body. But when you reflect, if you know, this action that I wish to do with the body would not lead to my own affliction, or to the affliction of others, or to the affliction of both, it is a wholesome bodily action with pleasant consequences, with pleasant results, then you may do such action with the body. And here I'm going to shorten things down just a little bit. Also, Rahula, while you are doing an action with the body, so we have before, we have during, you should reflect on that same bodily action thus. Does this action which I'm doing with the body lead to my own affliction, or to the affliction of others, or to the affliction of both? If you know this action that I'm doing with the body leads to my own affliction, the affliction of others, or the affliction of both, it is an unwholesome bodily action with painful consequences and painful results, then you should suspend such bodily action. But when you reflect, if you know this action that I'm doing with the body does not lead to affliction, then you may continue such a bodily action. Also, Rahula, after you have done an action with the body, so you have before, during, and after, you have to reflect on that action. The action that I did with the body, when you reflect, if you know this action that I did with the body led to my own affliction or the affliction of others or to the affliction of both, it was an unwholesome bodily action with painful consequences and results, then you should confess such a bodily action, reveal it, and lay it open to the teacher or to your wise companions in the holy life. That's us Dhamma-Boots. That's your community, right? Having confessed it, revealed it, and laid it open, you should undertake restraint for the future. But when you reflect on that action, if you know it didn't cause any harm, if it didn't cause any affliction, you can abide happy and glad, training day and night in wholesome states. Awesome, right? So essentially what we have here is you have three kinds of action: bodily, verbal, mental, right? And each of them you have to reflect, according to the Buddha, you have to reflect on them before doing them, while you're doing them, and after you've done them, to assess whether or not they've harmed somebody, to assess whether or not they've hurt somebody, right? So what we see is the Buddha encouraging conscientiousness, right? Really being thoughtful in what you're doing before you do it, while you're doing it, and after you've done it, right? So before doing it, ask yourself if it'll cause harm or not. If so, don't do it. If not, if it doesn't cause harm, good to go. While you're doing it, ask yourself if it is causing harm. If so, pump the brakes, disengage, back off, stop. Don't continue that action. If it's not causing harm, keep calm and carry on. After the action is done, ask yourself if it caused any harm or not. If it did, what the Buddha is saying is real simple. Confess it, reveal it, lay it on the table, and get advice from the teacher or your wise peers, then practice restraint in the future. You guys saw me do that last week. You guys saw me do that with right speech, right? I was wrong in my speech. I reflected on that action and said, yeah, I done goofed. And I asked for your wisdom, I asked for your guidance and said, help me figure this out. I will undertake to not do that in the future. Am I going to probably fail at some point? Yeah. But I'm not going to try to. I'm going to try deliberately to not fail. I'm going to try deliberately to not, undertake wrong speech. Because that's what we do. Now, after that action is done, if it didn't cause any harm, hey, the dude abides, right? It's wholesome. Keep going. No harm means no problem, right? So there are 3 categories that the Buddha usually includes when we talk about right action, and I want you guys to reflect on each of these. I want you guys to really take a close look at each of these in terms of the 3 categories that we just talked about, right? Before, during, and after. So the first one is not taking life. The second is not taking what isn't given. And the third is sexual misconduct. We're gonna deep dive each of these for a short time, right? So not taking life, right? This one's kind of hard in the Dhamma community, because being in the military, there's a lot of the taking of the life going on. Do we want it to happen? No. Do we want to avoid it at all possible costs? Yes. Do we always get that choice? No. Right? But this is why traditionally in the military, most of the Buddhists that we have, not all, by any stretch of the imagination, not all, but most wind up as medics, as 68 Whiskeys, or I guess whatever our Navy Corpsman, Navy Corpsman, or our Air Force equivalent, right? They are combat medics, because that tends to stay that they're, unless they have to take life to keep their patient alive, they don't take life, right? They're not out there to kill people. They're out there to save people. Kind of like my job too, right? I don't take life. Now, can you be a Buddhist and do other jobs? Sure. Yeah, you totally can, right? No problem. You just have to be real conscientious about what you're doing. Because intention, more than anything, intention matters in this part of right action. Intention is absolutely key. Your motivation matters. Your motivation really matters, right? Why you're doing something is as important as the act itself. And we saw that a couple weeks ago when we went through right intention, right? With the ship captain. We saw that and we said, okay, well, he didn't have a choice. He had no choice. All his options were bad. So he took the least bad of a bunch of bad options, right? His intention was what mattered there. His intention was key. And it's key in your lives as well. It's key in you, in your Buddhist practice, in the military. It's absolutely key to say, I'm not here to take life. If I have no other option and I've exhausted every other resource, I'll do what I have to do, but I'm not here to do that, right? I'm here to protect people. I'm here to help people. That's what we as Buddhists have to look at in terms of not taking life in the military. It's a hard sell, I know, but it's important. So what does the Buddha usually define as taking life, right? What counts as taking life? Is cutting down a corn stalk taking life? Is destroying a jellyfish taking life? Is shooting your neighbor's dog taking life? Well, we have an answer for that, right? The Buddha is real clear on what is and is not taking life, right? So, in order for it to be taking life in the sense that the Buddha is talking about, in the sense of a moral action, right? Or in a lot of cases, immoral actions. Taking life is any intentional or deliberate destruction of any being endowed with consciousness, what we typically refer to as sentient beings. in Buddhism, right? If it has the capacity to think, it is sentient. If it is sentient, you don't take that life unless there's no other choice. So, jellyfish, who cares, right? They're not sentient. Obviously, you don't do that, the intention there is you don't just go about you don't set about to kill a jellyfish, right? But it doesn't count as much as, say, killing a person. Because a person is sentient. That person has thoughts, right? And this is why suicide is typically is often, we'll say often considered to be a violation of the precept, because you are a sentient being. If you take your own life, you have committed a violation of the precepts against yourself. And you will suffer the karmic consequences of taking action against yourself, of harming yourself. Do you really want that? Really? I don't think so. Right? So we have to look at it from that standpoint. Now, where we get into some interesting territory is like, say you're just walking down the road and maybe there's a little dirt on the road and there's a bug inside that dirt. You don't see the bug, right? You're just walking along, swish. Whoops. Well, that bug had the capacity to think. That bug was sentient. Did you do wrong? There was no intention to destroy that animal. There was no intention to destroy it, and therefore that there was no violation, right? Because you did it was just there. You didn't see it, it just happened, right? Intention, motivation, why you're doing something matters a lot. So, moving on to not taking what isn't given, right? More fun times. This one should be almost self-explanatory, right? So really, when we're looking at it, we start to see things, it's pretty clear what not taking what isn't given means, right? It's theft in all of its multiple forms, right? This can be, child stealing candy from the grocery store. This can be, robbing a bank. This can be bankers committing fraud. This can be an employer who didn't give somebody their full, fairly earned wages. All of that counts as theft, right? That has what the Buddha called a thievish intent. I love that term. A thievish intent. You intended to take what wasn't yours. You intended to take somebody else's stuff. That's where the real violation is. That's where the real wrong action starts, is with that intent. Again, intention matters a lot. So, the weight of the theft and the reasons behind it actually really matter a lot as well, right? So, stealing ridiculous amounts of money, or like if you were to break into Fort Knox and steal all the gold, that would be a stupid high level of theft, right? And there would be a lot of karmic consequences, and I'm sure other consequences as well, right? You're not getting away with that without, like, probable death and or, other harm, which, don't do it. Not a good idea. The same thing with smaller levels of theft, just on slightly different levels, right? You steal a loaf of bread from the grocery store and somehow manage to get away with it. I don't know how you would, but especially not with cameras being everywhere these days, but assume you could. Why you stole that is important, right? This is not going into like Robin Hood territory, because we probably could. But why you do that matters. And also, is a loaf of bread as valuable as, say, a bar of gold? Socially, no, right? The social convention would be that that bar of gold is worth a chrome ton more than that loaf of bread. One of those gets punished way harsher than the other, right? And that's a part of it. So the good news is that we have a counter to that. And the counter to theft, the counter to that thievish intent is honesty. And that's not super challenging, that's not super hard. We can live with that. Same thing with not taking life. The counter to that is compassion, is realizing that being doesn't want to be harmed any more than you want to be harmed. So don't harm that being, because that could be you. And you wouldn't want that for yourself, why would you want that for others? Right? So, now on to the big one, the big old scary one that I have been putting off for way too long because it's contentious and I didn't really feel like it. So, we're getting into it now. Bear with me. I need a lot of courage for this one. So, no sexual misconduct. But this one, I mean, we've already been over the difference between monks and laity in terms of sexual conduct, right? Monks obviously forbidden from all sexual conduct. Laity, not so much, right? The Buddha didn't say, don't have any sex. You're lay people. You're basic human beings. It's kind of something that you're probably going to do. That's just a fact. The Buddha understood that. He knew that. All right, so what the Buddha is talking here is essentially protecting relationships, and specifically the marital relationship, but not only the marital relationship, protecting the relationship from outside disruption, from trauma outside, right? So who or what counts as sexual misconduct? Who is it okay to get freaky with, and who is it not okay to get freaky with? Well, the Buddha laid it out as 3 types of women that are not okay to have sexual conduct with, and the later commentaries added a couple for men too, right? We're going to add even one more to that today, because honestly, if we're being fair, all of these really apply to all genders, right? So you've got, you know what, screw it, forget it. We are going to go through all of these just as people, right? So, the 3 people who you do not get freaky with: 1, a person who is already married, including those engaged, betrothed, etc. Does not include somebody who has become a widow or widower, or somebody who's divorced, provided that they are not now a monastic, that they are not now a monk or a nun, or being protected by their family, or being guarded by their family, right? That's category 1. You don't think about doing those. You don't think about doing anything with them, right? Category 2, a person still under protection. What is it? What? Okay, so what this means is a person under protection is usually somebody who's being protected by their family. And you can think of a couple of different examples, right? You can think of the child who is obviously off limits and is under no circumstances in any way, shape, or form acceptable as a sexual partner, according to the Buddha. You don't do it, you don't diddle a kid. No, not legitimate, not acceptable. You just don't do it. Right? But this also might mean somebody who's, say, being guarded or under the guardianship of family, right? So this could mean somebody perhaps who has a severe learning defect or a severe disability, perhaps somebody with Down syndrome or something along those lines, who is being protected, guarded by their family, who's under the care of their family, with the proviso that if the family is okay with it, and the individual consents to it, it's okay. Now, getting those two consents is going to be, that's on you. It's totally not acceptable in any other capacity. You shouldn't even be considering it, but if that's your thing, yeah, we'll leave that one alone. And part of this was the social realities of the Buddha's time, right? So this was protection against eloping, which is not legitimate according to the Buddha, right? Same thing with secret marriages, not legitimate. You get the family to sign, to get on board with it. It's important that they do, right? It's an important part of becoming a family, is saying, hey, yeah, we're gonna be hooking up, we're gonna be getting hitched, we're gonna be, a thing. Let's be friends about it. Let's be good about it. Try, right? And sometimes family is gonna cause drama. We know that, right? Trying to get the family on board, having that intention of not harming them, that's the key again, right? Not harming your partner, not harming their family, being honest about it. The third category are those who, under no circumstances, are you ever to consider, right? This is your monks and nuns, those who are observing voluntary celibacy for whatever reason, and those who are prohibited by law, right? Prohibited by law or convention. So close family members is a thing that the Buddha said, don't do it. No. Not good. Right? You can't marry your brother or sister. Yeah. I mean, what more is there to say on that one? The Buddha was clear about it. Right? Prohibited by law or convention. And usually this means that, like, the local law, the local customs, right? There are some cases where, like, your fifth cousin on your fifth cousin to the second separation or second degree, whatever, that might be legitimate. Who knows? I'm not here to sit there and be like, oh, hey, this is what the law says, right? You have to figure that out for yourselves. So the other cases that the Buddha talked about as being completely off limits because they are wrong action. And this is specifically in terms of sex partners, right? These are the ones that get you in trouble, not the one that get the other partner in trouble, right? This is not causing karma for them. This is causing karma for you. This is causing consequences for you. And those would be anybody not giving consent, obviously, right? You don't go around raping people. Not what the Dhamma-woods do, not what the Buddha wanted us to do, not what the Buddha said was good. In fact, he said it was bad, right? Anybody who had to be forced into the act by violence or coercion, again, same deal. But we're going to add a little bit here, including coercion by payment or compensation. Pimping ain't a thing for the Buddha, right? You don't do it, right? You don't sit there and prostitution's not a thing. It's not, you don't do sexual relations with prostitutes because the compensation factor, right? Because you are harming them and they are taking it because of money, right? You don't do that. That's again, the intention here is the key. You don't harm someone. If you're going to have sexual conduct with someone, it better be 1, not a relative, 2, well, 1, not forced, right? 2, not a relative. 3, not a monk or a nun. 4, not somebody who's already married, right? Can you avoid those people? Sure. Do you need to? Yes. Yes, you do, right? And I know that there are some who are probably gonna be like, oh, well, if it doesn't cause any harm and nobody knows about it. See, that's why you come and you open up to the Damba Boots community, which brings us back to the passage from the beginning. If you know that it caused harm, if you know that it was harmful, if you know that that the intention was not good, that the intention was not right, you own up to it. You fess up to it in the community, say, I done goofed. And this really goes for all of the actions, right? You do any of these things, you come to the community with it and say, yeah, I done goofed. This is what I did. How do we fix it? How do we make it better? Right? And that community, if you have a community that you're practicing with, hey, great, right? If you have somebody in the local community that you can, in your local area that you can practice with, awesome. If you don't, by all means, bring it to the Damba Boots. Bring it here, bring it to us. We'll help you out. We'll listen, right? You tell us that you did, you done goofed. We'll listen, and we'll try and help you fix it. We'll try and help in whatever way we can to make it better. We'll help you to practice. We'll help you to keep practicing, knowing that we're all human too. We all fail, right? None of us is perfect. We're not here to be perfect. We're here to keep trying, to keep working on having that right intent, on having that intention, that motivation to do the right thing. But we can't do that if we're not going to acknowledge that sometimes, yeah, we goof, right? Which is what I did last week. I admitted that I goofed. I came to you guys and said, yeah, I goofed. Where did I goof? How do I do it better next time? That's what I was doing, right? And you guys can too, right? Obviously, try and do the right thing all the time, every time. But when you don't, when you fail on some occasion, we all fail. Just bring it to the community, have us help you out with it. We'll work through it, right? Good times. All right, I've rambled on way too long. We'll leave it at that. Damba Boots.